these things. It's how this impacts, how our religious differences and commonalities affect the topic that we're going over. So we're first having Rabbi Charles Sherman. Rabbi Sherman graduated from the University of Pittsburgh and earned a BA and MA in Hebrew letters at Hebrew Union College. He served as senior rabbi at Temple, Israel from 1976 to 2013 and now serves as Rabbi Emeritus. Would you please welcome Rabbi Charles Sherman?
I'd like to start with two small corrections to our program. These are the wise people who are here today because who needs any more Super Bowl hype? And we'll be done in time to get home and leisurely watch the game, which is good scheduling on your part. And I would simply remind you, my friend Bill, that I think it was Isaiah who said in the name of God, with regard to your congregant, I desire not the death of the sinner, but that he should turn from his sin, and so forth. So,
I am correct.
Okay, all right.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Charles.
So I think that what I'm supposed to do after that wonderful presentation, which is very hard to get one's head around in a short amount of time, and is to indicate how that translates to the Jewish community of Tulsa. And let me simply say that this is a different Jewish community in many ways than the community I found when I arrived in the summer of 1976. First of all, we have a growing number of Jews by choice. Some refer to this group as converts. They come from all socioeconomic groups. They are people of color, straight and gays, and again, far more than ever before. We have a growing number of interfaith couples. A few years ago, I was looking at the demographics of the Temple Israel religious school students, and only half, had two parents who were born Jewish. That's a significant change in our community. We have, if you look at our congregation today, we have adopted children from China and Ethiopia. You can't look at a person and say, she is Jewish. It's simply not true. It's what we call today big tent Judaism. It is a big tent. In terms of the aging population that Dr. Feigert referred to, we do that even more than the national average. In other words, the Jewish community of the United States and of Tulsa, Oklahoma, is grayer even than the non-Jewish population. Affiliation. When I came here, Tulsa's Jewish community had one of the highest affiliation rates in the United States. Nearly all of the Jews who lived in Greater Tulsa belonged to a synagogue. While it is true that still well more than half of the Jewish population is affiliated, and given national statistics, that's remarkable, but it's significantly lower affiliation rate than was true in the past. So the major issue confronting the Jewish community of Greater Tulsa and indeed of Oklahoma is that we are shrinking. Today there are fewer than 7,000 Jews in the state of Oklahoma. There are, at best, 2,000 Jews in Tulsa and 2,000 Jews in Oklahoma City, and fewer than 3,000 spread across the rest of the state. So the challenge for us today is that we are a shrinking Jewish community, we are an aging Jewish community, and we are a community that is less affiliated than it was in the past, although still the majority of Jews are affiliated. We also have a change in terms of the economics of the community. Ours was a community of many entrepreneurs, people who had been successful, often in businesses relating to the energy business, people with deep pockets who have contributed, I have to immodestly say, more to the philanthropic community of Tulsa than any other group of our size. But thank you. I mean, it's no coincidence that this is the Alfred Aronson Trust that supports this. But children and grandchildren have gone away to school and not returned. It means that the second and third generation are not necessarily entrepreneurs, haven't returned to family businesses. Often, while we're very much a middle-class community, it's often with two working partners in the home, sometimes doing more than two jobs. That's a significant change than when I moved here almost 40 years ago. Let me say something about the education with fewer and fewer children. You know that we have a small Jewish day school, the Meisel Jewish Community Day School. It is very small. Most of the Jewish children are not in a parochial Jewish educational setting, and 20% of the students at Meisel are not Jewish. We have a preschool, and B'nai Emunah Synagogue has a preschool, and the overwhelming majority of the students in those two preschools are not Jewish. So while we're trying to deliver a Jewish content curriculum, the vast majority of the teachers are not Jewish, and the overwhelming majority of the students are not Jewish. The majority of the Jewish kids in Greater Tulsa go to public schools. A number of years ago, I looked at just the middle school and high schoolers in our Midrashah, our combined program with B'nai Emunah. 28 different schools were represented, meaning that our kids are coming from Tulsa, Union, Jenks, Sand Springs, Owasso, Broken Arrow, and so on, and often are one or two or three of the Jewish kids in the entire school, or even school system. We have had for a long time students in private schools, Holland Hall, Cascia Hall, Montecasino, Bishop Kelly, Marquette. We have had Jewish students who have incidentally gotten a good education and been treated very respectfully by each of these parochial schools. We were among the largest, percentage-wise, supporters of the magnet schools in Tulsa. Nancy's and my children are graduates of Carver Middle School in Booker T. Washington. Jews tended to use those magnet schools and to benefit greatly from them. One of the Bill asked us to talk about the shortcomings, where we've missed the mark, as well as where we've hit the mark. I don't know of any group that has been as involved in interfaith relations over the last 4 decades as the Tulsa Jewish community. We've been involved in OCCJ, TMM, TIA, disproportionately so. We have had a required course in comparative religion in our educational program for many, many years. It's important. Now, part of this is because we're such a tiny minority. And therefore, you need to know more and more about what your neighbors and your co-workers believe and so forth. We have been involved in terms of social justice in this community, again, disproportionately. We've tried to bring people through our doors. B'nai Emunah has a wonderful annual musical program featuring the diversity of music that's offered in our community, bringing people through the doors. We've had an annual sisterhood and brotherhood interfaith program, which has brought more people from more than 100 different faith communities through our doors over the last 4 years. But we're worried that the people from our community who are involved in interfaith are not the young people. Even though we work hard to get our young people involved in the OCCJ Youth Tour, for example, the OCCJ Youth Trialogue programs, it's not the number that we would like. I was counting the number of Jewish people in this room that I can see, and I can't see all the way back. Yeah. There's barely a quorum, all right? And that happens all too frequently. A wonderful program which began at Boston Avenue called Shared Tables. Truly, open tables, excuse me, thank you. Yes. Open tables. I don't know of a better program where two Christians, 2 Muslims, and 2 Jews met together in each other's homes originally. Mm-hmm. And it stopped in the homes and moved back to Boston Avenue. There weren't enough Jewish participants, and there often weren't enough Muslim participants. I think that that's sad. I did what I could to try and recruit Jews. So that what I'm saying is that while theoretically, ideally, we have a strong commitment to interfaith programs and interfaith relationships and interfaith projects, the number of hands and heads and hearts involved has not always been as great as we would like. Okay.
Very good. Thanks very much.